Hey there everyone, it's Alex here from VG247.com and I'm here with a little bit of Doom Eternal, and I didn't actually play it, but I'm here with James, and James did go and play it.
Hi.
So how much did you play exactly? Like
About 2 or 3 hours.
Okay, so a fair amount. I guess let's start at the top. Does it feel as good as Doom 2016 did?
Yeah, it's great. It really is great, and it's good to get that out of the way, like right at the start of the video, because some of the things that I might say sound a little bit critical, but it's fantastic. If you like Doom 2016, then you're really gonna like Doom Eternal as well.
Yeah, because I think that was my thing when this game was announced. I loved Doom 2016, but I did sort of leave that game going, okay, what now? Once you've done that series, done that reboot in that way, I was wondering if they could find new places to go, you know what I mean?
Exactly. I think that criticism of it is very much at the forefront of id Software and Bethesda's thinking when they're kind of working on this sequel. I think a lot of people like that cliche with a sequel of it's the last one, but it's turned up to 11, and it's kind of hard to do that with a game that's already chugging away for full like 12 hours on maximum volume, isn't it? So yeah. It's like I think they really took the criticisms that some people had of the last game to heart, especially when it came to some repetitiveness in the later areas of the game, or just kind of little feedback things about the gameplay, and they seem to have taken that to heart. But the main thing that I took away from what they were saying about trying to expand and kind of iterate with the sequel was that Doom Eternal's about twice as big as the original one.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so it's going to be an interesting change to see how exactly like you say, how it works over that kind of protracted length.
Yeah, I mean, so that's the thing. Like, I guess, what was your biggest takeaway from what you actually played? Like, how are they expanding that out? Is it new combat features? Are they going deeper on narrative? Like, you know, where do they land on all that?
Yeah, both of those things. So what a lot of people liked about Doom 2016 was that there wasn't that much story in it, but they've kind of carried that over, but given the story a bit more of a through thread, with the flow of the levels and things like that. So there's a new kind of hub place where it's kind of Doom Guy's Superman style Fortress of Solitude in orbit. So you kind of go back there between different levels, and that, instead of just having a kind of a radio conversation that is drowned out by the heavy metal soundtrack at the start of each level, it gives you a bit more of a through line to kind of place you where you are in the story, but doesn't really, it's not overbearing as it could be. And then on the gameplay side, I think I had two main criticisms of Doom 2016. I think the first one was that sometimes when you're shooting these big badass demons, that sometimes it felt like your shots were kind of pinging off them. You weren't really sure if you're doing much damage. But this time there's a new kind of weak point system. So you're really not in it there's no doubt whether you're taking chunks off of these demons now. That for instance, with the Revenants, they have like the shoulder cannons. So you can kind of focus on those and shoot them off, or there are kind of these big spider dudes with brains on their head, and you shoot the brain, and you can tell that you're taking chunks off this big gross brain. So that's one of those things that they've seen that people have been unsure in the last game, or not quite getting everything that they could out of the gameplay from the last game, and they've tried to address that directly. Another thing that I found in Doom 2016 was that even though there wasn't a sprint button, I had my thumb on L3 all the time, like I was trying to. Like, it felt like there was a little bit of the movement was lacking that kind of last lurch, that kind of distance closer that you wanted to.
Yeah, even though it was super fast. Yeah.
Even though it was super fast, there was a little bit of a lurch, a little bit of a distance that was still difficult to close. And they've given you a couple of different methods of closing that distance now. Like with the super shotgun, there's like a new meat hook which you can fire at enemies and it kind of pulls you in so you can get some close range blasts or kind of finish things off with melee. Or there's like a dash function now, so you get kind of two sort of really kind of Dishonored 2 style blinks towards enemies, which is interesting, especially with the
make Kirk extremely happy.
Yeah, Kirk will be extremely happy with the Dishonored connection there, but it works quite interestingly with the kind of redesigned arenas. So there's a lot more kind of monkey bars or different levels, sort of more verticality in the different arenas that you jump into. So you have a lot more movement options, and that gives a new element to the kind of gunplay as well. But one of the things that they do with that dash to try and address the repetitiveness, I think, is add a lot more platforming sections, which I think are going to be controversial.
Yeah, I mean, well, I can say, because this is what I was actually going to say. With all this stuff that's being added, do you feel like there's enough there from what you've seen that it's not going to outstay its welcome if it is indeed twice as long or twice as large as the previous one?
So there are a couple of nice little things that have been expanded on from the last game that do give it a bit more variety. Like the secrets are really good in Doom 2016, right? They had the classic levels, the little Doom guys to find. So now the little toys that you come across they're all different kinds of enemies. Like you get little Revenant plushes or whatever instead of just the Doom guy, which are fun to find. But you can also find like soundtrack vinyls from the OG games. You can find cheat codes that you can then go and enable. So those things are a bit more fun to kind of track down. In general, it's a bit funnier than Doom 2016. It's a bit more of a lighter tone, like with.
Well, I thought in places Doom 2016 was a pretty funny game actually as well. In fairness to it, so if it's funnier, that's interesting. I suppose in Doom 2016 it was this dry thing of like the game knew precisely how absurd it was.
Yeah, exactly. There was a bit more kind of knowing humor in the context of it being quite a serious sort of heavy metal and hell game, but I think there's more kind of overt jokes in this one. Like it's emblematic of the bit that was shared around E3 of Doom guy walking through the scientists, and they're all having an interesting time as he walks past. You know what I mean? So there's a lot, and then later on when he jumps into a cannon and finds himself out of it, there's a lot more kind of overt humor in it this time.
Good. Well, I'm actually excited for that in particular. I don't know. It's. I feel like too many games don't have enough fun. You know what I mean? So,
exactly.
So what I'm getting from this is that you really enjoyed what you played.
Yeah, I did. The gunplay is just as bombastic. There's a ton of new stuff to find. The weapons have taken a bit of a revamp as well. You're not going to be just buying the exact same kind of power-ups that you loved in the last game. You're not going to main the same weapons because they're not there. So there's a little bit of a difference that's on that side of things too. But all in all, it is interesting. The only thing that I think will be controversial are those platforming sections. They are very frequent. They are a definite change of pace.
There was a bit of that in the first one, and I distinctly remember they had that. I wonder what game popularised this. I wonder if it was Mirror's Edge, but that thing where when you jump in first person, the camera subtly tilts itself down every time you jump, so that you can sort of see what you're going, where you're going. And I remember that, but I mean, I'm sure that's something that's going to, like you said, you said at the start that the previous game ran at like 1,000 miles an hour at any given time. Bit of a step down to take a step back for a moment and pump the brakes and say, now time for some platforming.
Exactly. And yeah, it's an interesting kind of, I don't know, concession that they've made towards that is that in the last game, when you fell off the edge, that was it. You reload from checkpoint, but you just kind of do like a platformer style fade to black and then respawn back where you were. So you don't die from falling off the edge now. So they have made some concessions towards making it more of a bit more of a friendly platformer. So it's just whether people warm to that change of pace, whether the signposting's good enough to not make it frustrating. I think that was something, because it's a change of pace in a lot of different ways, because you're used to in Doom, or from the revamped Doom, death was kind of like a setback. It was a setback, so you were reloading from a checkpoint. But in this one, there's a lot more kind of trial and error of you kind of jumping off the edge of stuff, and it definitely gives it a bit of a different feel in a lot of it. So I think it'll be interesting to see whether it's a worthwhile expansion that people, as I say, warm to, or whether it's whether it outstays its welcome.
Cool. Well, I mean, that's left me probably more intrigued than I was before. Am I right in thinking that you're doing a written preview?
I think I did get to speak to Marty Stratton.
Okay.
So I think we might have some stuff with him. He's a very interesting dude. Speaks very enthusiastically about.
Yes, he does. Yeah.
And there's a lot of stuff that he says about how this is the most ambitious game that they've tried to do, which ties into it being such a huge leap in terms of length and things like that.
And then size, and scope.
Yeah, exactly.
It feels a bit more. I mean, and this will make people furious, I think. When you see sort of the cutscenes, the story sequences and stuff, it seems almost a little bit Halo-ish. But like you said, with more of a sense of humour, right?
Exactly. So that's an interesting comparison.
That's interesting. But anyway, the reason I asked that obviously is people watching, we're running out of time because we can only use a certain amount of footage. But there's going to be some more on the website, so people can check out vg247.com. And also, we have got a lot of footage that we're not going to be using, so at a later date, whenever Bethesda says it's okay, we'll probably use some more and put up some more stuff for folks to look at. And this is out in March, right? March
20, 2020, same day as Animal Crossing.
Oh well, that's a hard decision for me.
So you can get your fix of debauch, death, and destruction, and play Doom on the same day. Good old Tom Nook. Right, that'll do. Obviously, if you enjoyed this, people, give us a like, give us a subscribe, and press the bell if that still exists. I don't know, they've changed all the YouTube systems, but just press all the buttons that give us positive feedback, and then that tells us that we're on the right path. Or leave us comments telling us what you'd like to see done differently. Anyway, which means I've now just triggered about 100 comments to say, why won't they shut up? But it's a preview, so we're previewing the game. Anyway, that's it. Thanks a lot for joining me, James. You're very welcome.
Thanks a lot, and until next time, everyone. See ya.
See ya.